Man, I was doing 50-hour weeks working on this. Like, I'd be in class and I'd be doing 2K, like admin stuff. I'd be collecting money from a PBMer and putting it into a sheet. It was literally a full-time job.
How did the business model of a group of RuneScape players make national news by being featured on national public radio? And how did they make $250,000 worth of RuneScape gold? Today, I'm sitting down with early members of 2K Total Revs to finally unpack their story from their perspective. First, some context. In November 2017, monsters called Revenants were released in RuneScape. And on release, all of these Revenants were clustered into one room, in one cave, in multi-combat in the wilderness. If a player was left alone to farm these Revenants without any PKers or having to compete with other PBMers, they made mind-blowing amounts of RuneScape gold, on average between 7 to 10 million GP per hour at peak efficiency. But that's obviously not what your typical experience was like. Thousands of regular players, thousands of gold farmers, often from third world countries, and thousands of PKers all converged on this tiny 43 by 24 tile area. You were lucky if you could kill Revenants for 3 minutes without being attacked by a PKer or crashed by a high-level PBMer. Now we'll talk to some of the brains behind this operation right after a word from the sponsor of today's video. Bloodline Heroes of Lythis is a strategic card-based RPG with a traditional Western fantasy theme in 3D realistic graphics where you can not only collect champions and build kingdoms, but also create half-blood heirs of your houses by merging the powers of various bloodlines such as orcs, elves, lycans, and demons. New legends will be born. Use my link in the description to download the game. One of my favorite champions is Lycanis, a lycan aka werewolf. Lycanis is a must-try bloodline with a super cool design, and you can get a 4-star Koran and a card champion for free by logging in. You can also create half-blood heirs, like if you crossed a dragonborn with a demigod. Skills of these different bloodlines can be merged through marriage. To celebrate the launch, players can now obtain an heir of dragonborn and demigods, one of the strongest mixed bloodlines, for free. The game is free to play for both Android and iOS, so download the game using my link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. You can use my gift code BLDHOL1 to obtain a random bloodline now with rewards worth $20. You'll get 1 champion token, 100,000 gold, and 100 diamonds. The game is launching on June 23rd of 2020. So in the beginning, one of the founders, Zykate, tells me there was a group of 4 Iron Men PBMers. Zykate, Normies, Sharko, and Sebe. They decided that instead of fleeing when a couple PKers arrived, they'd team up against the PKers and invite other PBMers around them to join in. And one of those PBMers they invited in the first couple weeks was named Offset. He didn't know it at the time, but he would go on to manage all of the money of the organization.
Well, I'm Offset. A lot of people know me as Offset from 2Ks. I was a 2K pure, so I was like, oh, I'll go farm revs in the 2K worlds. I went up there, and of course, I got ragged out of the caves like most people learned. They asked me to join them as a pure PKer, and it grew from there.
Early on, these guys made a smart business decision. There are literally hundreds of RuneScape worlds with hundreds of thousands of players across them. You would need at least 1,000 or more PKers to control the Revenant caves across worlds. But if they chose just 4 or 5 worlds that had specific requirements to join, they'd filter down the RuneScape population considerably. And of course, that's exactly what they did.
We controlled all 2K worlds. I can remember them. 349, 396, 361, 428, 526. So that's 5.
Years later, Offset was still able to list all 2K total worlds from memory. Only a small fraction of the RuneScape population could even access those worlds. At some point during this time period, they were growing and decided to formalize and commercialize the business. What if you split this area up into 4 regions that contained roughly the same amount of Revenants that PVMers could farm? Enough Revenants in each spot so that one PBMer could efficiently farm them.
There was a north spot, there was a west spot, there's middle, which is the night, and then there's south, which is the dark beast. So each world had 4 spots.
And because PBMers could make so much money farming these Revenants protected and undisturbed, this group was able to start charging them fees every 2 weeks for protection.
I think it was 20 mil for 2 weeks, and then it grew to 40 mil for 2 weeks. We have no spots for our Iron Men, so we had to increase our prices. That's double the price. So we went to 80 mil for 2 weeks, and that lasted literally about 2 weeks before we went to the 100 mil and then 150 mil.
All of this activity was carefully tracked in Excel spreadsheets. The 4 spots across 5 worlds were in such high demand that even after the PVMers had paid for 2 weeks, these guys tracked how long they were logged in and had an active waiting list going to fill spots, and they'd make a game time decision if a PVMer had been in the same spot for 6 hours straight, whether or not to swap them out with someone on the wait list. So even though the group was shielded from most of the player base by staying in 2K Total Worlds, there are still thousands of players that had access to them, including large PK clans. The group needed to improve their core product, protection, and they did it in 2 ways.
Some of the PVMers were like, man, I kind of want to PK with you guys. So we started training the PVMers to become PKers. We had literally a section on our Discord that was a PKer info tab. Literally how to PK, how to switch. And there was GIFs of that. And we taught PVMers, literally Ironman, how to become PKers on their mains.
Their second strategy was to partner with their biggest threats.
We were still getting hit by people. Like there was clans that would hop into a world, or there was, and that's when the clan scene got involved with us. We started selling spots, free spots to clans, saying, you can join us, you can PVM with us, as long as you don't hit our worlds.
But even with PKers recruited and the biggest clans on their side, how do you protect 4 or 5 worlds 24/7 for 2 years straight?
We had bots in our CC that would literally relay everything to our Discord. And then the Discord would log everything. So I didn't have to be logged in to hear what's going on in the caves. So at all times, we knew what was going on in caves. I would have a notification on my phone that would pop up, and I would know what clan was hitting us. And then you're literally supposed to log in within 10 seconds, or we used to dock people.
You used to dock people?
Yeah, we would, you would get like a warning or something. Hey, if you have a cave for too long, that's your warning.
Did they treat this as a full-time job then, or what?
A lot of people, we all had with RuneLight's plugins, we were able to, it's like notify anything the CC, a certain word was said, like PKer. If someone typed PKer in the CC, everyone would get the bling. Like it would go bing.
But to make sure a large group of PKers was active and could log in within 10 seconds all of the time, obviously they had to be paid. So let's talk about the money.
Really, I started collecting money and I was holding 4 bills a week.
4 bill a week.
Yeah, at least. That was our goal. We had to make 4 bill a week to split with between our PKers. If we didn't get 4 bill, it was a bad week for us. And that didn't happen that often.
4 billion GP a week for 2 years straight, for a total of 400 billion GP. Gold prices back then fluctuated between 50 cents to 80 cents per mil, meaning that pot of gold was probably worth about $250,000 at that time. The group actually distributed their profits relatively equitably.
We didn't keep that much. I mean, admins kept a different split than everybody else. PKers got the remainder split. So admin would be 225 to 250 mil, and then PKers would get about 125 to 150.
I still hadn't figured out how this small group had been able to service well over 1,000 high-level players in the community. What was like your marketing strategy? How did you get the word out?
We had our friend Nasty on that.
So I sat down with Nasty.
My name is Nasty, as most people know me that were involved with Rev Caves anyway. I did a lot of the marketing stuff, like the I don't know if you've ever seen the Twitter account. Yeah, that was me. A lot of the PVMers would DM me like loot pics. They were just super excited with the amount of money that they were making because it was unheard of for Ironman account at that time. With protection, Ironmen were getting upwards of 9 mil an hour, and then it got nerfed. And then it was probably closer to the 5-4 mark. We would have people that would come pay us for a month and walk away with a bill. We wanted a phrase, something that would be catchy. Jokingly, one of us had said business was booming, and I went with it. And then every tweet I posted, I would tag it business was booming. And people loved it, man. They every time somebody saw me in game, how's business? It's booming.
Do you remember how much money you were bringing in?
I think my best week I brought in 9 bill. I was handing out bills because I just didn't know what to do with money.
After 2 years of completely controlling the 2,000 total world revenants, Jagex started chipping away at the area. On August 6th of 2020, the average value of the revenant drop table was reduced by 20%. That foreshadowed a much bigger update. October 21st of 2020. All of a sudden, the Revenant Caves were not in multi-combat, meaning clans did not have as much of an advantage in numbers. In fact, they had almost no advantage. Revenants were also spread over the entire cave. There wasn't just one small area to lock down and protect. Clearly, the era had ended. And these days, the Revenant Caves are much less trafficked. So how does this all tie in to their business making national news? National Public Radio's insanely popular podcast, Planet Money, did an episode called Video Gaming the System. It's not about this group specifically, but it's about the groups in the 2.2k total worlds and the lower total level worlds who adopted the same business model as the 2k total world rev group. I think this video is a great primer to go listen to that podcast, so you should definitely check it out. I'll link it in the description. It's not often that RuneScape gets picked up in such popular media.